Heartstoppers had nothing compared to the heartstrings that were tugged when talks turned to mergers with Melbourne. Nine's Jeff Hutchinson on Sports Sunday.
Hawthorn, we're the mighty fighting Hawks.
I say to my kids, the first one was the best.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you couldn't see the grass here for people.
Yes, well, that feeling's gone because the ground was so small and it was always very intimate, wasn't it, coming here?
And like here, remember coming here and listening to John Kennedy roar?
The career stats for Moya and Brenda read, no games, no goals. But for nearly 50 years, they've played their hearts out for Hawthorn. Early on, the trophy cabinet was full of wooden spoons. But in the last 20 years, the Hawks have proved the most successful team in modern football. 8 premierships characterised by unflinching commitment, a touch of the brawling, brilliant Irish in a kid named Brereton, and a willingness and honesty to do the hard things. Success should have brought members and money. It didn't. And just a few years on, club president Brian Coleman was announcing what amounts to a football club fire sale.
I'm here to announce that the Hawthorn board has unanimously decided to recommend the merger with the Melbourne Football Club.
Members of the board of the Melbourne Football Club have unanimously agreed that in the best interests of the Melbourne Football Club for the future, that we reposition the club.
This is Victorian football in 1996, the centenary year, the celebration year, where good men with stout football hearts are doing the unthinkable.
It's totally abhorrent to every fibre in their body to make this decision. But they're only doing it in the interest, the long-term future of this club. We must educate the people of Victoria to the problems that are confronting the Victorian clubs. What solved yesterday's problem doesn't solve today's problems. We are in a new ball game.
Right there with him. But this new ball game, now played so well in Sydney and Brisbane, is breaking Melbourne hearts. The AFL Commission has long stated struggling Victorian clubs would have to go. After 112 years, Fitzroy now has 1 week left. And on September 16, Hawthorn and Melbourne members will vote to change forever their football identity.
And they can be emotional about it and all those other things, and I can understand that. But then we've got to break through the emotion and look at the future. And the emotion won't get us through the future, unfortunately.
OK, we're not Collingwood, we're not Essendon. We probably never will have members in their numbers. But what we've got are loyal. They love their club. I mean, there's a line in our song that's pretty trite, a lot of people think. But sitting here the last 2 weeks, it's not trite at all. It's just cold, hard fact. We do love our club.
If I was on the board now, I'd be doing exactly what the board members are doing. They're the people charged with the responsibility of looking after the future of the club. It's all very well for people on the fringes to come out and rant and rave. They will hold the responsibility for this club. If the club does not merge and the club falls over at some future time, they must carry that responsibility.
Those on the fringes who rant and rave. Ross Oakley's words, at best ill-chosen, are at worst very patronising to those whose loyalties have kept Victorian clubs alive.
Could I ask you to have a look at these flyers in regards to the merger? We're trying to make people realise that the merger isn't the only way of saving Hawthorn.
It is true there are people who still think you can save footy clubs with a few more chook raffles. But what those piloting the merger steamroller are dismissing is their right to fight.
Why shouldn't you fight for what you believe in? No, nobody gives you anything for nothing nowadays, or ever. No. If they merge, that's it as far as I'm concerned. My mother barracked for this team. I mean, she's been gone 14 years. In all those years, we never won anything. She barracked for them.
What would Mum be thinking now?
turn over in her grave if she knew this was happening.
When you've got mongrel mixed with passion, you've got a bloody good brew.
97,
We make a check out to Operation Payback.
Okay.
Hawthorn's board may have agreed to merge, but this group hasn't. Led by former great Don Scott, bunkered down in the social club and fighting for their lives, are Brenda, Moya and the Operation Payback battalion, trying to raise $1.7 million to help clear the Hawks' debts.
Little boy that came in last week, he had on his Jason jumper. He was, I suppose he would have been about 4, and he had a $100 note in his hand. Remember him with his dad? And handed it across and he got his receipt, and he didn't know what was going on, but I mean, Dad will tell him later on down the track, I dare say, well, you cared enough when you were a child. You gave a donation to try and keep this club alive. All Hawthorn supporters have got to care enough, because if they don't, if we disappear, they're going to have the rest of their lives to regret the fact that they might have done something to prevent it.
Can you understand the anger on the other side, based on this club's fantastic tradition of fighting hard and being tough, and a perception in their eyes that Hawthorn isn't fighting hard, it's rolling over?
Yeah, look, I certainly can. I guess if I was out there, I might be saying exactly the same.
Based on the evidence before me, Hawthorn, I think, can be viable.
The Hawthorn faithful flocked to Glenferrie Oval this afternoon for a dose of old-fashioned fundraising. Thousands packed the historic stands and hallowed turf to hear former captain and champion ruckman Don Scott's plea to dig deep to keep the brown and gold alive.
There's so many bloody fence sitters out there who are accepting and have been conditioned that a merger is the way to go.
But though Scott's words were fighting, favourite son Dermott Brereton's were charged with emotion.
There have been times in my career for this club where I know I should have given up, and each one of you has the option now to give up and succumb to the easy path.
The kid was clearly overwhelmed.
This club deserves to continue the way it has for the past 60 years.
At Camberwell, the scenes were just as hostile at the Hawthorn vote. The Hawks boss, Brian Coleman, gunned down when confronting the mob.
It's heading down the same path as Fitzroy.
The facts and figures were presented, but the most impact for the club to merge came from 3-time premiership coach Alan Jeans.
For 10 years! 10 years! I've been telling you this was going to happen!
Don Scott opposed that. Rather than fire and brimstone, the former club captain showed what would happen to the jumper if the two clubs joined forces. He believes it would simply be a takeover.
There would be no merger. Hawthorn would survive, with a membership swollen like never before. The symbolic cheque now part of the Hawks' heritage.